Okay, hello and good afternoon. This is Josh Ring with Eldorado Insurance Agency. I want to welcome you to part one of our CalSega 2020 virtual convention learning sessions. Today we're going to have a discussion about insurance challenges currently presenting security companies with the current COVID-19 situation. Briefly go over contracts and how your current or future contracts may be impacted by COVID-19, things that you can do to protect yourself further. We'll talk about how it may impact your liability insurance and potentially other insurance policies as well. And then what to do in the event of a claim now or a claim going forward, making sure that your company is protected as best as humanly possible. First and foremost, as we said, contracts with COVID-19, what may have changed, what may be changing in the future, what are your clients going to be asking of you? These are all important things you need to be considering and making sure that you're keeping a close eye on that and having open dialogue with not only your insurance professional, but as well your attorney and other legal advice to ensure that your firm doesn't wind up in a sticky situation. First and foremost, when talking about contracts, as you are taking on new jobs in this current situation, or as you are making addendums to your existing contracts, be aware of what your customers are asking. Over the last 7-8 months, we have heard a number of things being asked of security companies throughout the country. Things as simple as just upping man hours, checking that people are wearing masks, checking temperatures, doing darn near full-on health screens to people entering and exiting facilities, as well as enforcing COVID-19 requirements within the premises while the officers are there performing their daily duties. The main thing to consider here is how much liability do you want to assume, and is that going to be assumed by your insurance policies, or are you going to be taking that on yourself? The number one thing that I try and tell people to avoid is be very, very cautious about contracts that require you to go above and beyond the scope of security requirements or security duties and responsibilities. At some point, if a security officer is performing health screening, even temperature checks, you could make a solid argument that may go outside the scope of security and could very well fall under the realm of medical professional liability. We haven't seen any claims to that effect yet, so this is all theoretical. But I have advised clients over the last 6 months to be very cautious, especially if they are being asked to do temperature checks, evaluate people and how they're feeling. That's getting into a very gray area. And what we don't want is for a claim to occur and your liability carrier to say, well, that's not the security guard duties, and then decline the claim because they say that's medical professional liability. So be very, very careful with that. I know it's difficult to tell your clients no or tell potential clients no. We're not willing to take on these operations, but you have to make sure you're protecting yourself and your firm for the long term. This COVID situation has obviously brought up a number of different caveats to how people request security, to how people want security provided for their premises. And it's going to matter to you as the company owners to make sure that you're not assuming so much liability that if and when something goes south, it winds up putting your firm out of business because you have assumed enough liability contractually that your clients can lean on you and wind up, again, causing a situation where you don't have the funds or the insurance to get yourself out of it. Talking about shifting liability a little bit, and that's, again, kind of tying into contracts, you do really need to be aware of what your customers are doing with these contracts. Reading the language in them, be they new contracts or addendums to existing contracts. It's the job of your customers to make sure that they are protected. That's why they hire security to begin with. They want outside security firms who have their own insurance and their own liability to shift their legal responsibility away from their own exposures. So by hiring a firm to do screening rather than have their own employees do it, their intention is to make sure that they are protected in the event of a COVID claim or COVID outbreak at their premises. They're going to try very hard, just like any situation, to structure the contract with indemnification clauses and other hold harmless language to make sure that you, as the security provider, are on the hook for as much as humanly possible. And what you need to do, again, is just be as informed as possible and keep your attorney and insurance professional in the loop as much as humanly possible to make darn certain that you're not winding up in an ugly situation. As far as what your current liability policies will cover, most policies right now do not have any, and again, we're speaking specifically about COVID-19. Most policies do not have any communicable disease exclusion on them. Carriers have rolled out communicable disease exclusions on their policy forms, and you can probably pretty well bet anytime renewals starting really about a month or two ago, going forward, that exclusion is going to start to show up on everyone's policy. You may be able to buy that exclusion back. I've spoken with a number of carriers that say, given the situation and given the contract that you may or may not be able to sign, you might be able to buy that coverage back for your firm. But it's all going to come back to what is your client looking to do, and how much of the liability are they wanting to shift onto you, the security provider. If the contract with your customer is worded appropriately and isn't making you 100% hold them harmless and identify them for any type of COVID outbreak at their premises, then again, an underwriter may be much more willing to either carve out that exclusion for that particular customer or just remove the exclusion from your policy in general. But that's where understanding these contracts, reviewing the language, making sure you're not biting off too much is going to be absolutely tantamount to your long-term success in this COVID situation and just any type of communicable disease situation going forward, since this has really woken up insurance carriers' eyes to some potential liabilities that are out there. Again, we talked already a little bit about how to protect your company, but just doing what you can do, making sure that you're not assuming duties outside the scope of security, showing your contracts to your agent, communicating those contracts to your agent and to your carrier, and then if necessary or if possible, buying back those exclusions that might potentially lie on your policy, either if it's the existing or your new policy coming up, to make sure that you're not hung out there in the event of a potential liability situation. Getting on to a potential claim situation, again, we've already touched about the exclusions and what you may or may not need to be aware of. As I said, right now, before COVID broke out, I would say I'm not aware of any carrier that had any type of communicable disease exclusion on their policy. Going forward, that has been something that most all carriers have adopted, and you will see them coming up on policies probably from here on out. Much like after 9/11, every insurance carrier eventually adopted that terrorism exclusion. I think after this situation, you can expect every carrier to adopt that exclusion, again, with the caveat they may buy it back or based on certain situations. But you need to know what's going on and what you can do to protect yourself. Filing claims under your liability coverage. If you are alleged to have caused a COVID outbreak, or if you are alleged to have made an error in your temperature screening or just reading a questionnaire, I suggested to a lot of my customers, rather than doing just a temperature screening, can they just be responsible for checking off the yes or no boxes on an admittance questionnaire. That certainly falls within the scope of security, in my opinion. And if someone, an officer, misreads a form or fails to collect a form, those are going to be your liability claims that you can file with the carrier. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll be covered, but those are going to be your claim situations that should fall under your liability with the final determination of the claim being covered, relying on your insurance carrier and those claims departments. Workers' comp, that's a real interesting situation, and that does vary state by state. We do have some work comp carriers that in a given state will afford coverage for COVID-19 if it's been proven that your employees contracted COVID-19 while on the job. In a state like California, they've changed the laws to where the onus is on the employer to prove that the employees didn't contract COVID while on the job. Much like the flu, which occurs every year about this time, when it's a widespread thing, it is very difficult to prove that it occurred at work or it didn't occur at work, since it's just kind of airborne and kind of out there. But by and by, COVID claims are a covered loss under your workers' comp policy. It's just the challenge lies with both the employer and the work comp carrier in determining how the affected party and where the affected party contracted the virus. Again, as we just discussed, are you covered? Yes, you are covered, but situations are changing with renewals. Obviously, workers' comp, you certainly are covered, but the liability is going to be the ever-changing format here, and something that you're going to need to be aware of. Reviewing your policy form and talking with your agents about, not only am I covered just in general, do I have that exclusion on there or not, but then specifically, are these operations that I'm undertaking potentially bumping me from covered to not covered because it's now going outside the scope of security operations. Lastly, things to consider, after COVID-19. As I said, I don't anticipate this communicable disease exclusion going away anytime soon. So I think we should be aware that any future widespread communicable disease claims may indeed not be covered. Be it the flu, be it swine flu, the SARS outbreaks that we've had over the years. So be aware, and as those come up, it shouldn't necessarily present a problem. But if customer requirements continue to mandate that security personnel be the front lines for screening folks coming in and out of a building, that's going to be something you're going to need to consider going forward, and making sure that your contracts don't rope you in, and that your employees are properly trained and aren't performing things outside the scope of security. I think that's going to be about it. I don't believe we have any Q&A possibilities today, so I do appreciate everyone's time. If we have any questions that you'd like to address in the future, please feel free to reach out. Our contact information is on the screen here, and we'd love to assist you with any questions you have once you have a chance to review the presentation. Again, my name is Josh Ring. I'm the president here at Eldorado Insurance Agency, and thank you very much. Everyone have a great day.